Premier, thank you so much for your kind words, and to all of you, welcome to Edmonton, welcome to my home province. It's always good to be back in Alberta. I live, as the Premier has noted, in British Columbia now, but I still think of Alberta as home, and when the Premier gave me the opportunity to come back and serve Albertans in this way, I have to tell you, I jumped at it as quickly as I possibly could, because I really feel committed, and I know our council feels committed to putting forth the best advice that we can come up with in terms of ensuring that Alberta is a place where people like me and my grandkids and your grandkids and their grandkids can have the kinds of opportunities that we have enjoyed as a result of our time growing up in Alberta. The Premier mentioned the Council for Economic Strategy, and again, I have to say it's a very, very interesting challenge that we've been given, one like I've never been given before, and I don't think most of you have been given this before as well, and that is to look out 30 years, basically out to 2040, and look at the fundamental drivers and trends that are going to occur in the global economy, that are going to occur in our environment, that are going to occur here in Alberta, here in our backyard, that are going to shape the kind of a country and the kind of Alberta that we live in 30 years out. And as the Premier said, the quality of people that we've got on this council, I'm just truly humbled that the caliber of people that the Premier has gathered to be part of this exercise. And it's not an exercise in academic dreaming, because, as the Premier has said, once we've figured out what we think some of the big drivers and trends are going to be out there, we have to bring it back to the here and now of Alberta, because we have to come up with the conditions and the kinds of actions. We're not going to spell out policies for the government, they do that, but we will spell out the kinds of conditions that require action, real action, in the next 3 to 5 years if we are going to position Alberta for the next 30 years. So it's a very ambitious undertaking, and I have to say, Premier Stelmach, I really congratulate you because I know what politics is like. You get beat up every day in question period, and what's on the news headlines last night, and what's going to be on tonight's headlines, and what are the polling numbers going to be in 3 months' time. There is not very many political leaders who will actually embrace a search for a long-term, substantive vision, and it does take courage, and it takes a real commitment on the part of somebody who believes in getting it right for Alberta and getting it right for Canada, and getting it right in a world of accelerating tectonic shifts that are going on in the world outside of Alberta and outside of Canada. I'll give you a few examples. Globalization. We all know what a massive effect globalization has had over the last 20 or 30 years. The digital revolution means that virtually every person on the face of the earth is now a potential customer for any company on any other, in any other corner of the world. And globalization, of course, and this is what you're all about right here, is all about today not just producing something in country A and selling it in country B. It's about global supply chains, global value chains, and I'm delighted that we've got American states here, because one of the most important strengths that we have available to us is a tightening and an integration of the North American supply chains so that we can gain enough competitive critical mass that we can meet the challenge that's coming out of countries like China and India and Brazil and others. So globalization is fundamental, but it's not just economic. Globalization is also environmental. We have all seen recently in Copenhagen, but well beyond that, and in so many different fora, the fact that we are now dealing with the environment and environmental limits as a global constraint. It's a global parameter that is causing all kinds of issues to arise and be shaped on the basis of who is going to come up with solutions that have to be local to meet the constraints of global limits on the environment. The second issue that is very big and very important to us is what I call the fraying of North America, or the erosion of the NAFTA narrative, because Canada in particular, but the United States and Mexico, have gained tremendously from NAFTA since the beginning of the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement in '88, then NAFTA in the early '90s, and a tremendous period of economic integration in North America allowed North American industry, not just Canadian industry, but North American industry, to pick low-hanging fruit, to become much more globally competitive, and to create an awful lot of wealth. But in the last 5 years, particularly since 9/11, NAFTA has been fraying at the seams because of security concerns. Ostensibly, we're getting a thickening of the border in all manner of ways. Because of food security threats, we're getting a thickening of the border. Environmentalism and environmental policy is now becoming a disguise in the United States for what I think is becoming blatant protectionism, and the list goes on and on and on. A trade lawyer can probably list 20 or 30 areas where the border is thickening. And that's going to be of fundamental importance to us in Alberta and us in Canada going forward. And for Albertans, I think it's really fortunate that you've got a premier like Ed Stelmach, who has said to Albertans, we better do some very careful enterprise risk management, as we say in the corporate sector. And that's really what the Premier's economic strategy is all about. It's risk management at the provincial level. What are the big risks out there, positive and negative, and what are we going to do about them to make sure that we maintain our competitive position? And what are the strategies that we need to put in place to take advantage of opportunities and to mitigate the downside risks? And what we do and what Alberta does is going to be fundamental for the kids and the grandkids, and it's going to be absolutely critical. And so I really congratulate Premier Ed Stelmach for putting this group together. And we are reaching out, I and our council members, to Albertans. I'm doing it, members are doing it in terms of small meetings, big meetings, and we will have an ability to through the internet, gather people's views and perspectives. We're not going to come back in 2011 and give you some tablets of stone with God's messages on them. We're going to bring our knowledge, our experience, and our ideas to Alberta. We're going to blend them with the culture and the thinking and the ideas of Albertans, and hopefully come up with something that will offer the Premier and the government a roadmap that we'll finalize in the middle of 2011. I'm telling you, my view is that wealth creation in Canada is going to be more driven by natural resources and natural resource development in the future than it has been in the past. We have massive amounts of natural resources, and it's not just Alberta that has energy and natural resources, or British Columbia. Natural resources in terms of mining and energy, renewable and carbon-based energy, is being found in virtually every province of the country. Every part of this country is discovering in their own backyard resource riches that technology has now made available to us commercially, and is going to be a major driver of wealth creation going forward.